Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. You're watching This Week in Pirate Baseball. A little bit unusual, but it's what we'll call a pregame, kind of a Wednesday edition of the show. Typically, this will be headed your way on Sunday night as we wrap up the previous week. But it is actually game day as the Pirates are taking on the College of Charleston Cougars at Segra Stadium down in Fayetteville. And we'll talk briefly about that here in a few minutes, but we'll primarily be taking a look back at the Pirates' 2-2-1 week and what a roller coaster week it was. But now let me welcome in my co-host, Johnny Stats. Stats, how are you?
I'm doing well, Bubba. Let's get to it. We don't have a lot of time today, so let's go.
Yeah, this will be an abbreviated 15 to 20-minute edition of the show. And, of course, first pitch tonight at Segra Stadium is 6 o'clock against College of Charleston. But looking back at last week, and the Pirates, you suffered a 6 straight one-run loss against Campbell. All you can do is shake your head. The Pirates committed 4 errors that night. The good news is the remainder of the week, in the other 4 games, ECU only had 2 errors, and one of those was a throwing error, kind of a tough throwing error by Walker Barron in Game 2 against the Tar Heels at the DBAP, and the other, I believe, was either a fielding or throwing error by pitcher Ethan Rose. So all in all, very good defensively. After that, you had Austin Irby making plays, Grady Linehan, as well as Seawall. No surprise there. But in that game against the Camels, the Pirates, the bats, and as I mentioned, the glove let ECU down. Sean Jenkins pitched very well, as did Brett Antolik in his 1 inning of work. And then the other arms that saw the mound that night pitched well for the Pirates. The ECU bounced back on Wednesday. They trailed 4-1 in the early innings. Then kind of got a jump start by Davin Whitaker with the 2-run bomb to make it 4-3 there in the bottom of the third. And then Jack Vogeley, as well as some others, really stepped up. Carlos Hakame had his first Pirate home run, and ECU went on to an 11-5 win. So the Pirates 1-1 in the midweek. North Carolina came to town on Friday night. Ethan Norby had an excellent first inning, but from there was touched up a little bit. I think 4 runs on 4 hits, something like that, was what Ethan allowed. And then, the Pirates got run ruled by the Tar Heels 10-0 in 8 innings. What were your thoughts on that Friday matchup before we move on to Saturday?
Well, I'll say this. We can't blame Braden Burris. He was Jason DeCaro only gave up 5 hits. I mean, he was really on. Braden had 3 of those 5 hits. And, Jason DeCaro was just in a zone. And he's the only person to strike out Colby Wallace so far this year. Colby is one of the hardest people to strike out this season. And that's the only time he has struck out was against Jason. And I thought Ethan, he had a 3-up, 3-down first inning. And then, in the second inning, he had 2 up, 2 down. And then, he just got I'm sorry, that's not Ethan Norby's stats. Bubba, I apologize for that. Okay, so anyhow, with Ethan Norby, he got off to a great start. He was 3 up, 3 down, 11 pitches. And then, he got touched up a little bit in the second inning. But with Ethan, he was still getting the strikeouts. He had 7 strikeouts in 4 innings. Jason DeCaro, who was pitching awesome, only had 7 strikeouts in the entire game, which was 8 innings. But the problem with Ethan was when he got hit, he was getting hit very hard. And, he gave up a couple of home runs. And, if you could just take away those hard hits, I know that sounds crazy, but he was pitching pretty well.
Yeah, definitely a lot of good things there. We just have such high expectations, for Ethan Norby. It was far from all bad against a very, very good team. So very intrigued to see how Ethan pitches on Friday night against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They've been putting up a lot of runs here early in the season, took 3 out of 4 from College of Charleston. And I'm trying to remember who else they've played, but they've really been putting up the runs from what I can tell. And I think averaging about 10 runs a game. But moving on to Saturday at the DBAP, you take a look at that one. It was very interesting, going into it. How would ECU respond? And man, did we ever respond in a great fashion, a championship response. You had another excellent start from GVK. Gavin Van Kempen went 4+ innings. Really, the only glaring thing was the bomb that he gave up to Gavin Gallagher over the Blue Monster in left field. But outside of that, overall, a very solid start. Although you would, of course, as the season progresses, like him to go a little bit deeper into the game. And then Sean Jenkins was just lights out.
Yeah. Hey, as far as I want to go back to GVK for a second. First inning, 11 pitches, 3 up, 3 down. And then, his issues started to show up in the second inning where he was getting behind in the counts. And like he ran up 2 full counts in the second inning, 2 full counts in the third inning. And then in the fourth inning, he seemed to get back on track a little bit. And then, in the fifth inning, he retired 1, and then he walked. He issued a walk, and then Gavin Gallagher was on deck, so they made the change to Sean, which was the right move at that point. But yeah, I agree with you. Gavin Van Kempen, I liked what I saw. He looked really good, and obviously Sean Jenkins was, lights out.
And I mentioned a few minutes ago how well Sean pitched on Tuesday against Campbell in that game against the Tar Heels. He was unhittable. You look at it on the week, 2 appearances, 7 2/3 innings, 7 2/3 shutout innings. He surrendered just 1 hit on the week, 12 strikeouts and a walk. So there you see what out of 23 outs, 12 came via K. And that was something last year. His strikeout total was not what we necessarily thought it would be going into the season. And his improved velo, which is not surprising. That was one of the many reasons to move Sean to the pen. And he's certainly not overthinking, and he's pitching at his best right now.
Absolutely. Hey, one more thing I wanted to mention about game 2 before we go to game 3 is clearly we were much more aggressive at the plate. We had 12 one-pitch at bats, and we had a .533 batting average, 2 doubles, a triple, 10 total bases. So I'm going to look forward to seeing tonight if that continues. I mean, Chapel Hill was just different. The weather, everything was different. It wasn't like a normal game, so it was hard to tell. Although they already had 5 first pitch at bats in that game. Through the first 4, so we'll see what happens tonight. But I think I like what I see. They're not going after the Tar Heel pitchers were throwing strikes. The bottom line, and they were taking advantage of it.
Yeah, like seeing that aggressiveness by the Pirate bats, and Sean Jenkins, because of that effort that we just outlined and detailed, that is. He is our PGXGloves.com pitcher of the week. So congratulations to Sean. And on the other side of things, kind of going in the direction that you were with the aggressiveness at the plate and the way the Pirates swung the bats, the top of the order was just tremendous at the DBAP. You had, of course, Braden Burris, who's hitting .500 now here 8 games into the season. And I think he's 15 of 30. And then he's also getting on base at a 600+ clip with all those free passes, just picking up where he left off last year and then even adding to it and faring even better. So you're getting exactly what you would expect to get from him. And then Jack Herring and also the star freshman, Grady Linehan, those guys combined to go 9 for 14 in that 10-3 win over number 10 North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to back up to Braden Burris real quick. For the series against the Tar Heels, he was 7 for 11, 636 batting average, and he walked. And he was just a catalyst. And how about when he hit the ball in game 2, he hit the ball past first base, and they were the first baseman was thrown into the pitcher. He had to kind of come off the bag a little bit, and so Braden did a headfirst dive, so he didn't get tagged. And I mean, that's what you get from him every single game. And I'm going to differ with you a little bit. I didn't expect Braden Burris to do this. I thought there'd be a little bit of regression because, I mean, when you're batting 389 as a true freshman, I thought he might take a step back. People might be keen on him more. No way. I underestimated him. And that dude has got his foot on the accelerator, and I just can't wait to see what he does the rest of the way.
Yeah, and kind of to clarify where I was going with that, obviously, hitting 500, we're 8 games into the season. No, that's not going to be anywhere close to that. But, kind of what I meant is just.
But I knew what you meant. I was playing with you. I knew exactly what you meant. I was just saying,
constant production and just the epitome of a table setter.
Yeah, no, I knew what you meant. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% with you.
But diving into what Grady Linehan did on Saturday against the Tar Heels in that game, 3 for 6. Is that correct? I think it was 3 for 6, 3 for 5 or 3 for 6, and then he was just a single away from the cycle.
Yeah, and game 2 he was 3 for 5 with 6 RBIs though. I mean,
yep.
He only struck out 1 time. He produced 3 runs. It was. It's a thing of beauty to watch him play, not only, in the batter's box, but in the field too. He did some really good things. He covered pretty much the whole outfield from, left center to right center to, with ease. Like he could almost play the outfield by himself. Of course, that's, I'm exaggerating, but he looked really, really good out there.
Yep. And he had a diving catch there early on against the Tar Heels, and we haven't even mentioned this yet. When he had the 3-run home run and the 3-run triple off the Blue Monster there in the 7th and 8th innings, I mean, that game was tied 3-3. That was very much shaping up to be. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a game that was decided either in the 9th inning or in extra innings. And then it turned into, for somebody that just saw the score, it looked like a blowout when it really was not. It was a 3-3 game going into the late innings.
Yeah, that was the turning point. Grady, that's why I suggested that Grady should be player of the week, just because, it was so important. That one win, I mean, he literally carried us on his back there. I mean, everybody contributed, but Grady was Superman in that game.
And because of that, we went with him as opposed to Braden Burris and Jack Herring. Were definitely very deserving. Braden, you already ran through some of his numbers against the Tar Heels for the week, despite going 0 for 4 against Campbell. From there, he went 9 for 13. He had multi-hit games against Northern Illinois and all 3 against the Tar Heels. And he also had 4 walks. So he was on base in 13 out of 21 plate appearances. Jack Herring, he was 1 of 4, 2 of 4. He did go 0 for against North Carolina on Friday night, but bounced back with a 4-hit game at the DBAP, and then went 1 for 3 with a clutch 2-out RBI double early on in Sunday's series finale. And Jack, for the week, 8 for 19 with 2 doubles and 6 runs batted in.
Bubba, you had a better view. I was behind the plate. You were down the right field line. How many inches, how short was he from a home run? I mean, that to me looked like it was out of here.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, obviously in the post game, Coach Godwin said a few inches. I mean, kind of splitting hairs. If based on what I saw, I would say it was probably about a foot.
Okay. Yeah, from where I was, it was a laser. I thought it was gone.
Yep, and it's 340 down the line at Boshemer Stadium, but from there, it's kind of an odd configuration if you check it out, and it's not very deep in the gap. And that ball was just a little off the line. And like you said, it was undoubtedly a laser. But congratulations once again to Sean Jenkins and Grady Linehan on being named our Player of the Week and our Pitcher of the Week. So just tremendous performances by them. Looking forward to many more from those two gentlemen throughout 2026. But kind of moving on with some thoughts that I had regarding that game on Sunday. It's very unfortunate that it cannot continue, so it didn't end in a 3-3 5-inning tie. I mentioned Jack Herring's big knock. Jack Vogeley, we talked about him having a couple of doubles, one a 3-run double against Northern Illinois. Jack had, I think it was a 4-hit week and had a big 2-run knock that put the Pirates up 3-1 there in the top of the 5th on Sunday.
Yeah, but it's the way he did it. He did it with style, that's for sure. He was so excited he fell flat on his face halfway down the first baseline. But
also showing the conditions. And
that's true.
Why the game didn't continue.
You're right. But it's what my point was. Now you're absolutely right about that. But the way he got out of it, like he did like a little swim move almost, got right back up on his feet and had a big grin on his face because he knew everything was going to end well. He made it to first base. He scored 2 runs. But I know that that they were going to ride him once he got back to the dugout, but in a very genuinely playful way. But it was good to watch him deliver with those 2 RBI single there.
Kind of as we wrap up this show, we got a few minutes left. We'll take a look at what transpired around the American last weekend.
Oh, hold on, Bob. I got to mention one more thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
We didn't talk about.
Colby Weber. Duh.
Yeah,
got to talk about Colby Weber.
Absolutely. So first inning. Now keep in mind, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have our lead pitching analyst, John White, with us tonight, but he indicated he thought Colby might be throwing a couple miles an hour slower, and that might have been why he didn't get a lot of swing and misses. But I'm telling you, he still looked great. First inning, 3 up, 3 down. And then the second inning, 2 up, 2 down. Then he walks the next batter in 4 pitches. So how does he respond? A 3-pitch K to end the inning. And, in the third inning, he did issue a walk, but he should have had a strikeout there. He had the guy, it was Tyler Howell that was batting for UNC. He had a 1-2 count, and Colby threw 4 pitches, and all 4 of them were called balls, and or 3 of the 4 were called balls. And I think that at least 2 of them were strikes. So I feel like he got robbed there. I mean, it didn't really make a difference because he got out of the inning unscathed, but he pitched really well, in my opinion. And I do think the cold weather might have been holding him back just a little bit. You just want to be cautious. You don't want to go out there and throw your arm out in, week 2.
Yeah. And like you said, that's an excellent point. When he did have those 3-0, 2-1, 3-1 counts, he didn't allow it to snowball. He didn't allow things to get out of hand. He was able to manage the damage and keep it minimal. So another very quality start for Colby Weber. I think he threw about 80, 85 pitches, something like that.
Yeah, I don't even think he threw that many, to be honest with you.
Okay. But, just so excited on what his future holds. But very quickly, I'll run through these American scores. You have UAB. The Blazers went 3-2 last week, defeating North Alabama 15-3. And then they split a 4-game series with Cincinnati, winning 12-11, 8-3, and then losing 8-4 and 8-6. Charlotte went 3-1. The 49ers lost 11-1 at Clemson in the midweek, and then they swept what is generally a very competitive and quality Wright State program, winning 10-3, 5-4, and 9-2. Tulane was 3-1. The Green Wave lost 13-5 at number 1 UCLA in the midweek, but then swept Harvard 7-3, 11-9, and 11-1. Memphis went 0-4. They lost 12-11 to Arkansas Little Rock, who who they actually beat last night in blowout fashion. But then they also lost a couple games to Ohio State, 12-5 and 8-2. Also a loss to Louisiana Tech, 8-5. The UTSA Roadrunners, who suffered their first defeat last night to Texas State out of the Sun Belt, were 4-0 last week, which took them to 7-0 at the time. They beat Illinois Chicago 10-3 and then swept what is a very good Dallas Baptist team 12-8, 10-8, and 6-3. South Florida, they went 5-0, defeating North Dakota State 9-5 and 3-1, and then they took 3 from Georgia Southern. Get this: 9-7 in game 1, 4-3 in game 3, but game 2, 29-4. Go figure. That's baseball for you. Wichita State, they split a 4-game series out in Honolulu against Hawaii, losing games 1 and 2, 7-6 and 4-2 before bouncing back 13-3 and 7-1 to split the series. FAU, they had a 2-2 week, beating Missouri 4-2. So nice to get an SEC win. Then they dropped 2 out of 3 at home there in Boca to the Iowa Hawkeyes, losing 7-2 and 6-1 before winning 3-2 in the finale. Rice, the Owls, it was a rough week, going 1-4. They were shut out by Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns won that game 3-0. Rice bounced back with a 5-2 midweek win over Purdue, and then the offense really struggled out at Dedeaux Field at USC, losing 5-0, 4-1, and 4-2. So there you have a look at what took place in the American Conference.
Yeah, I want to mention something about UTSA though. You know, did we have the same situation that we had with Roadrunner football? Are they doing something at home games? Because I mean, they were 7-0 and averaging 13.5 runs per 9 innings because they never batted in the 9th inning one time. They only batted 8 innings a game. And now they go on the road for the first time. They had never been shut out in the first 3 innings. And they outscored their opponents 41-0 in the first 3 innings. They scored 41 runs in the first 3 innings in the first 7 games. But not only were they shut out in the first 3 innings, they were shut out in the first 5 innings and only managed 2 runs for the whole game. So, you know, maybe UTSA on the road isn't such a daunting, task. Unfortunately, we have to go to San Antonio to play them, don't we?
Yes. Yep. We year, they took care of business in Greenville. I guess taking 2 out of 3, and they can really swing the bats. That's going to be a heck of a matchup. Their bats against our pitching, and then obviously, hopefully, we're building on what we did over the weekend in games 2 and 3 against the Tar Heels as we started showing our potential offensively. But final thoughts. As we are just about 15 minutes away from first pitch against College of Charleston at Segra Stadium in Fayetteville. There you see the new look, a uniform combination that the Pirates have not worn before. You have the powder purple tops with the white pants with the purple pinstripe. You have the dark purple sleeves. It's a nice look. The hat is the Jolly Roger with the white front panel with purple everywhere else. So your thoughts?
I'm liking it. I mean, if you're going to make a change, I just feel like the white cuts the purple, and it levels things out a little bit. At least it didn't go the Kansas State way, where Kansas State went powder purple up top and dark purple in the bottom. It was horrible. So unlike Kansas State, I think our uniforms are sharp, and I like it.
As far as the opponent, College of Charleston is 3-5 under Chad Holbrook, who's been there, I think, close to a decade now. It's at least year 8 or 9. That's hard to believe since he was resigned under pressure there in Columbia with the Gamecocks after having been on Ray Tanner's staff. And so Coach Holbrook and College of Charleston, they have already won a midweek game against Coastal Carolina. And like I mentioned, 3-5, and they dropped 3 out of 4 to start the season against Rutgers. And in addition to, who were their other opponents outside of Coastal Carolina and 4 against Rutgers? So any idea who the other 3 games were against?
I'm sorry, Bubba. Which are you talking about? Rutgers?
No, College of Charleston. They lost 3 out of 4 to Rutgers, and then they took a midweek game. So I'm trying to
All
remember who
right.
their other weekend series was against.
Yeah. No, I can't help you out there, unfortunately.
Gotcha. But earlier today, Johnny Stats and I caught up with the head coach of the Western Carolina Catamounts. That is Alan Beck, and that interview is already on our YouTube channel, so go and check that out. We're aiming to get someone from Troy and also Rutgers, hopefully on the show. Have reached out to both of those sports information departments and have not heard anything back. But that will do it for this edition of the show. Be sure to follow us on social media, and we'll talk to you later on this weekend Pirate Baseball. But again, we appreciate you tuning in, and as always, go Pirates.